Cool.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yep.
Fantastic. I'm just gonna find the agenda, which
Oh.
I think is pretty simple. Almost could do it from memory, but let me get that. Almost have to do it from memory because I forgot my glasses.
I have an extra pair.
There's the agenda. It's 6:02, so I'll call the meeting to order. The agenda went out. Thanks, Roger. Does anybody have any amendments to the agenda?
Just want to make sure we're going to talk about our vernal pool visit.
Well, that's item number 6,
Okay.
number 6A.
Awesome.
No amendments to the agenda. Next item is approving the minutes from the last meeting. I was not present for most of what was covered in the discussion, so I'll entertain any motions from the floor.
Move with we accept the minutes for the last meeting.
Second. Discussion points? Right, all those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? I'm abstaining. And our next item is public comment. Wonder if this is will be another committee member coming in the door, not a member of the. Not seeing any members of the public here to comment. Hayden, you're next. Status report from the EPL.
Me?
Great. So we have been working tirelessly on this environmental issue over the past month with the environmental contractor Stone Environmental, the Regional Planning Commission, Vermont DEC, and the EPA. We secured some state brownfields money to help with some of the implementation costs with documentation and some of things like that. We are hopeful that we can get Stone out on the property in the coming weeks to within the next month to do this second round of soil sampling. And the results from the soil sampling will really dictate how we move forward, essentially how the remediation will take place and the documentation needed for that, and our closing timeline, more importantly. So everything really kind of hinges on the results gathered from this next round of soil samples, which we hope will happen soon. The DEC reviewed Stone's plan on what they plan on doing for this round of soil sampling and provided comment, and they're essentially just kind of finalizing that document to be able to then schedule the day in the field to collect the samples, which just should take one field day. So, and then turnaround time once the sampling takes place is about 2 weeks for the lab to analyze the samples. So that's kind of where we are at with the environmental. It's really kind of complicated, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any on that. We had a really positive stakeholder meeting with Linda Martin at the town and David Mullen, the CEO of Green Mountain Habitat for Humanity, last week or the week before, essentially outlining what a plan to remediate the sites would look like and the processes that need to take place for DEC and EPA approvals to make it happen. So yeah, we are kind of just now in a waiting period of getting these samples in so we understand what our next steps look like there.
Before you move on, a couple questions about that. So
Sure.
Is it both sites? Is it there's contamination at where the old trailer was, and there's contamination by the telephone pole? Is the closing dependent on both of those sites being remediated?
Yeah, so the affordable house site, that cleanup is either it's likely associated with the practice burn of the mobile home, or just regular maintenance and use of Route 15. The telephone pole site is on the community forest property, so that's up in the what was once pasture land and is now kind of this early successional forest, or kind of open field that is now kind of being populated by saplings. That's on the community forest property, so both sites need to be remediated. That is a question that we just posed to VHCB, is whether or not they would be comfortable with us conveying the community forest parcel prior to the closing of the affordable house lot, or if they would like both of those to be happening simultaneously on the same day. We hope that we can kind of have them conveyed on separate dates so we can close on the community forest property earlier. That would be our ideal scenario. We also just recently asked them whether or not we could convey the community forest property to the town prior to the actual remediation happening, which is something that happens often through brownfields program sites, where essentially a potential purchaser of property would submit an application for brownfields funding, secure the funding through the state, and receive a letter essentially stating that the funding has been secured for the remediation process. And then the acquisition of the property would take place, then the remediation would happen. So we're pursuing that route because then we could close on the property and then remediate the site.
So short answer is unknown. You're chasing it and hopeful, but we just have no idea.
Yeah, we have an idea of what the potential process could be, but none of the details have been ironed out yet. We need the soil samples back, and we need to hear back from VHCB on their comfort level of us conveying the property to the town, with us limiting financial risk for the town with funding secured, and the town being covered from all liability with umbrella application, which is the state, essentially the liability insurance program for purchasers of land that are in the brownfields program. We plan on having the town be BRELA enrolled, which will alleviate any potential liability risk in the future for the town with the ownership of the community forest property.
Wow. I'm saying wow, just due to the complexities involved, and appreciation for you guys for handling all of these headaches.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, our goal is to make sure that the town is acquiring a clean property. This is certainly a headache, but Stone Environmental have been great. The Planning Commission has been exceptional. They have been very supportive, both with kind of the management of this process and financially helping with kind of the early costs to make this happen. So we have a really solid team of people that are helping make sure this site gets cleaned up, both the affordable house site and the community forests. It's just making sure we're staying on track and keeping up to date on communications, and so things keep moving and there's no kind of stalling of this. We want to make sure we're making the most out of every amount of time. Any other questions on the environmental stuff before I start transitioning to other updates?
I have a question. Is there any idea how much the cost will be for the remediation, or does that depend on what their findings are at the next soil testing?
Yeah, it's pretty dependent on what the soil samples come back with. It can fluctuate drastically. We're hoping that the samples essentially help determine exactly how the spread of the contaminants, and then the results will dictate exactly how much soil needs to be removed, or the size of the soil cap for the affordable house lot. So the soil samples will help be able to refine the budget.
And as yet, no date set for the sampling?
We can't set the date until the final plan, the plan for the way Stone plans on going about the sampling is approved by the DEC and the EPA, which is in process now.
Gotcha. Any idea what's the lead time after that approval? For stone, is it, can they get somebody up here on a day's notice, or is that gonna take 2 weeks or a month or?
I think it'll probably take a week, hopefully less than 2 weeks, but it'll probably take a week for scheduling.
Yeah,
My hope is that we get someone out there before the end of the month, but my expectation will probably be like the first week of May.
gotcha. Anything else? All right. Let's go.
We had a great conversation with Sinuosity. We've met with them a couple times since the last time we met. They are moving forward with the permitting necessary for the school property. So they're working on that now. They also have reached out to Grimes, local contractor who would be the subcontractor for the parking lot construction. So Stone is going to contract that out. So they're getting quotes on what that would cost to put in the parking lots, both parking lots for the community forest. And they're also in the process of revising the scope of work. And once they get quotes back on the parking lot, they'll be able to revise and provide an updated budget, which will inform our conversations with Vorek. So we're in the process of getting those back, and that will help us with our Vorek conversations, which haven't taken place yet. So hopefully those happen soon. That's kind of our update with Sinuosity. They also, in terms of Sinuosity, they plan on reaching out to Local Motion. They're a group out of I think they're Burlington based, and they hope that Local Motion will be able to provide a little bit more information on best ways to go about public and pedestrian use along roadways for this section of Flatiron Road and the bridge on School Street to help with better and better guided signage for trail use and vehicular use on that section of the road that'll essentially connect the school trail, connector trail over to the athletic fields.
Cool.
Kate is working with the landowners on extending our agreements with both landowners, given these delays in the closing. So we'll be extending our agreements with them so the property will be secured. Our previous agreements ran out in April, so we had to re-up those to accommodate the environmental cleanup. And then this forest management plan, which is a discussion point for tonight. I know it came back to you guys pretty late in the game, so I don't know if everyone's been able to get a chance to read it. I'm interested to hear what the conversation around that involves tonight. I think some of the points and the takeaways that I had from reviewing it is that the stands, there really isn't any recommended forest management for this round over the next 10-year period. But Emily does kind of highlight potential recommendations or exploring forest management on the stands in the future, kind of leaving that a little open-ended for the opportunity for management later, which I'm interested to hear what your takeaways are, knowing that forest management wasn't really wasn't a really popular topic in our public community surveys, thinking about the data gathering that we did. So something to consider as we kind of talk about the intended use of the property and potential areas for old growth. It was mentioned, but there's no real call out for where section of the property that could accommodate kind of old growth conditions. So I'd be interested to hear whether or not Emily has an idea of what siting would look like for a condition like that. But I think that's something that we can talk about. You guys can talk about as a group. Main points that I really caught on was the need to include management of the earthen dam in stand 2. I didn't see mention of that in the report, so we'll have to get that included. And then special forest management provisions from the conservation easement regarding the acidic cliff, which will be a special management zone in the easement. That should probably be highlighted in the plan somewhere as well under, I think, stand 3. Those were my major takeaways, but you guys can discuss more, and I'm happy to chime in during that discussion.
Aiden, can we go back to sinuosity just a moment?
Yeah.
Because it came out of the last meeting that because with the delays, it might put a squeeze on the time frame for sinuosity getting stuff done. Did that come up in any of the conversations that you've had with them?
It did, yeah. So, and we essentially highlighted that we don't have a firm closing timeline for the community forest. We're trying to expedite it as fast as we can. And we asked them to give us an idea of how that impacts their schedule. Sinuosity have a team that's broken up essentially based on the state. They have a southern work team and a northern work team. Their northern work team is going to prioritize Wolcott Community Forest this work season. They will prioritize getting the permits done as soon as possible for the school property so they can immediately start working on the school connector trail. The section of trail on the school-owned property that's not related to the community forest in any way. The intention is to get that trail done so when the community forest is acquired by the town, that's done, taken care of, and not something that they need to put any more staff time or resources into. They also said that they typically complete about a mile of trail per month. So they'll have to expedite trail construction. And that's also, that fluctuates based on weather. They're kind of dependent based on the weather of the seasons. They can continue working on trail throughout the month of October. They typically end their work season by late October or the first week of November, depending on conditions, site conditions, and weather. But we haven't had a conversation with Wolcott yet either on the opportunities to extend the grant. So, and that's certainly not something that we can really hang our hat on. We don't know whether or not the state would be flexible in that or not. So that's something that's going to be a discussion topic once we engage with Wolcott, but we need more information from them on their scope of work and a refined budget to help play a part in that conversation before we re-engage with Wolcott.
So it really kind of sounds like it's this is going to be an ongoing conversation and questions won't be really answered until the closing date is set. And some of these other things that you're talking, that's kind of what it sounded like. Is that right?
Yeah. I think also, I mean, it really depends on the start of their work season too. I mean, once site conditions are dry enough for them to actually start creating trail, that could be late May, early June, depending on how fast they can get the permitting done for the school property so they can start making headway there. So yeah, it's certainly going to be an ongoing conversation. These will be recurring updates over the next few months with you guys on how that progresses, where we are with permitting and making progress on getting shovels in the dirt on the school property and closing timeline. I mean, it's difficult to predict exactly when the community forest is going to be closing until we get these soils back. And my hope is that we can get information from Sinuosity soon so we can engage with Wolcott, but we just need more information from them before we do engage them.
Thanks.
So much
Those
riding
are
on, say so much riding on DEC and the all of the steps in that review. That's
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anything else you wanted to share with us? Anything? I think you've covered all the things that I can think of, but
Hayden, real quick, last meeting, I think you mentioned something with the, forget her name, but the owner of the Westover property needed to resubmit or a document to that was withdrawn or something. Is it that taking care of? I know it's.
Yeah, that's something we can do. That's something that I need to engage our legal team on, is updating our agreement with the right of way amendment with Tammy Westover. That's actually a great recommendation, Roger. So yeah, we still need to do that. We need to amend that. We have the new meets and bounds for exactly where that's being rerouted. We just need her to re-sign an updated document.
The town may own her property before we own the rest of the town forest.
Is the is the forest management plan, is that on Google Docs?
Yeah, and also in an email that went out on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Tuesday.
Oh, I missed it. Okay. Check my.
Cool.
If we don't look over my shoulder tonight. I'll probably do that.
Okay.
And that's actually the next item on the agenda. Already a couple of minutes early. I had a chance to read it. I'm not sure, it's, people haven't had much time. My comments are similar to what Hayden said. The number one thing I notice is that there's 11 stands, and in each of the descriptions, there's the specific language is no activity recommended during this 10-year period. So that was a highlight that stood out to me.
Aside from the invasive species, honeysuckle bushes, that's an easy fix, I think.
Yeah. There was an action item, I didn't catch the page reference, but the existing forest roads, to the extent that, well, in places where they wouldn't be part of a trail system, some of them are prone to erosion, and would be worthwhile to look at remediating. She was not specific about the sites that she noticed, and I'm aware of a few of them, or a few sites that, would certainly call out. But I think that the fact that she's mentioned it as well highlights the fact that we should probably take an inventory of such places and consider doing something about it. Otherwise, given that, there's been limited time to review and there's a fair amount of stuff in there. My inclination is that we can spend as much time as anybody wants to tonight on first impressions about it. I asked Emily if she was going to be here via email. I didn't get a response, and clearly she's not able to make it tonight. So I'm hopeful that actually we can put this, I intend to put it back on the agenda for next month. Hopeful that Emily would be here to answer questions. I thought about asking her to make, if she could kind of present a summary, but having read the document, it's pretty straightforward. I don't think there's, it doesn't require somebody to read it to us or summarize it for us particularly.
Yeah, I didn't see anything in the plan that contradicted any of our other plans. Short term and stuff, which was, mostly what I was looking for. Is there anything that's gonna?
Yeah.
Or night, I wonder if it would be helpful, based on Hayden's comments in particular, if you could get some of these points to Emily so she could be thinking about them.
Mhm.
One point that Hayden raised was, no mention of a site that's good for old growth.
Mhm.
That would be a question for her. If the committee was going to go in that direction, then I think that's a good question for her. The other one was the earthen dam and what should be, there's obviously going to have to be some trees cut down on that dam. So that needs to be mentioned in the plan. And then the one that really interests me is that, the temperate acidic cliff is a quite a special area and sensitive to human activity. And I wonder if she shouldn't give some thought and description in the document to some kind of buffer around that area. Even to, there are trails that sort of lead to that area,
Yeah.
which unfortunately encourages human activity in the area. And I wonder if should even consider sort of brushing in those trails to limit human activity. Again, I don't know how far this committee wants to go with that, but it's something to think about.
Mhm.
Obviously, if you get a lot of activity up there, it could do some damage to the plant life.
Yeah.
But I just think it would be good to sort of shoot an email to Emily saying, hey, can you start thinking about these, and maybe next month
Yeah.
you might have more. I don't know, once you've had a chance.
Yeah.
To get a good look at it.
I'm happy to, I'll take this feedback tonight, and I'm happy to take the action item to share the feedback with Emily. And so your points are noted, well taken.
Jack, when you're talking about a buffer around that cliff area, are you talking about like a combination of just leaving it be
Yeah,
naturally, and then also like you're kind of
yeah, I don't think
closing down any trails, kind of covering up the trails, or even just marking it like whatever we would mark it with some signage saying sensitive area, you stay out, or whatever the land.
I think all of that is worthy of discussion by this group, how far you want to go. I'm certain VHCB will probably have some thoughts in that area. Hayden, you might have some thoughts on your own on that, and
Sorry to interrupt, but a question for you. Is it, is that site specifically called out in the easement?
oh, yeah, and it's mentioned in the baseline documentation.
Basically,
report. Yes, definitely. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, so it's a special site, no doubt about it. And it's a treasure really for the town.
It looked like it was like a off-road bike trail above the.
Yes,
Is
yeah,
there a road or a trail below the cliff also?
yes.
There is.
I didn't walk it very far, but yeah, it sort of parallels the cliff
Yes.
and goes toward, well, in this direction,
Yeah.
comes in this direction. I didn't go very far.
At the
but
bottom of.
It's a cliff, yeah, at the bottom of it.
Do
Yeah,
you think the lower road is a threat to the cliff?
I think so, because that's where all of the plant life that is specific to an acidic cliff is at
I
the
see.
bottom
Okay.
of that cliff. Yeah.
And this is a state significant cliff. How would you define state significant? Do you,
Hayden, can you define state significant area, Hayden?
Yeah, so state significant, that's a state designation that's typically made by a qualified ecologist or a state ecologist on special natural communities that typically are either rare or are in a certain type of pristine condition that provide a habitat for a special rare species or a number of different rare or uncommon species. But typically they're based on rarity and also sensitivity. This site is considered state significant. It also is home for multiple different rare documented species found by Matt Peters. And I believe the buffer zone that's documented in the easement and shown on the conservation plan map that essentially shows exactly where this zone is located. It follows the mapped area that's shown on Matt Peters' ecological analysis. So if you look at his analysis for the Bourne property, you'll see a temperate acidic cliff and a polygon that shows exactly where that's located, that's exactly what's being protected under easement by NRLT and VHCB.
We know what forest stand that it's in?
3, I think, is the
Yeah,
one.
I believe it's in stand 3.
Stand 3?
And
Yes.
the earthen dam is in stand 2.
And so it's a man-made pond with an earthen dam. But, you know, assume the committee's, no. I guess it's interesting that we have to actively maintain the pond in order to keep the pond there. But it seems like a good thing to keep, to have a pond, keep it.
Well, the recommendation from the dam engineer, the state dam engineer, was to maintain the dam to maintain the integrity of the pond and limit any potential damage downstream. That was his recommendation, was to clear the existing stems on the dam.
And it's, I mean, it's not a lot of stems on that dam. I mean, in one day's work with a chainsaw, I think you could satisfy that problem.
Yeah.
You know, the state's had pretty good luck, you know, with their cliffs by putting signage up where the peregrines are.
Yeah.
Are nesting. You think we'd have as good a luck with signage saying that we were trying to protect plant life? And
I think the good thing about that site right now is there's not going to be any part of the sinuosity trail system that gets you anywhere near there.
Mhm.
I suspect people in the local neighborhood know where that trail is to get to the bottom of it, but people elsewhere don't. It's not marked, you know, on any maps that I know of. So, you know,
Yeah.
maybe signage isn't needed. Sometimes signage sort of attracts people to sites, you know, and it can backfire on you.
I mean, I think it may take some consideration to keep people away from it, because it's a cool site to visit.
It is. It really is
So-
tempting, yeah.
Yeah, it's, I'll admit to having some disappointment because it is so accessible and being such a cool feature. It's a neat area to hike in, and one of the things that's especially cool about it is that for its proximity, it's actually really quiet.
Oh, yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's the site where, a site where you can, I mean, just the quietness of it. But there's other places like that, so. If we have to, you know, put it out of reach, what we'll have to do, I think, is probably carefully route trails around it and put signage as well. I don't see any other, you know, it just.
we could create some real barricades by dropping a few trees.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a good spot for an old growth forest, actually, right? You know, I mean,
Could be.
what I, in the pamphlet that I read to educate myself about old growth forests, but thinking about it, I mean, you think like, what would the woods around here look like if nobody had ever hauled a log out of them for, you know, 500 years? It's a lot of logs lying on the ground. It's not an easy place to walk through. And so temperate acidic cliff seems like a good place to just let it all go.
One other super minor point, but on Emily's map where she delineates the zones. When I printed it out, I can't read the numbers on it, so I can't tell which site she's talking. If she can make those numbers bigger on the map. And then when you're reading about it, you can see it, because right now I can't tell what zone she's talking about. Minor point, but
I mentioned the same thing to her in email, and then I discovered that
I don't feel bad.
I actually could zoom in closer than.
Yeah,
but
it's
it
on the
takes me
computer, you could zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. So acidic cliff, dam, numbers on the map,
Old growth.
and old growth.
Did you specify about what you wanted to do around the fields as far as maintenance of the fields? Not-
No,
We
not
really
that I
need to
read.
know something about what she wants.
Yeah, she didn't, she called it,
Maybe we
highlights a
should
field
follow.
as open space, but, yeah, I think you're right. I think, you know, we should tell her what we want and she can, let us know if it's inappropriate or if it's reasonable. Do you have a sense of
Well,
where we
I
should
I
start with
know
that?
the biologist walked with us from the state of Vermont and they recommended it not be brush hogged every year.
Mhm.
I suppose we could keep it, an area for walking brush hogged every year. There are some plants up there that are not the best. They should be brush hogged every year. The perimeter of the field, they want to maintain they don't want a sharp boundary around the edge of the field. They want it to be a soft boundary
Mhm.
so that animals can walk through that soft boundary without being seen. So, and it makes it easier for the animals.
Mhm.
So
On that point, Dave, I think she also had mentioned regarding like the path, even cutting a different path yearly, a walking path, so it wasn't the same path.
sure.
And creating, I think she also mentioned about, there were certain points where she said that could be a good island around maybe a tree that's in an open area. Just leaving a space around the tree to kind of grow up and kind of creating an island of sorts there.
I mean, if we want to keep the fields, we will have to maintain them. You know, Vermont turns back to forest if you just let it go. So, we will have to do something. Rhoda Bedell likes to run the brush hog up there. Is willing to continue for, you know, at least, the immediate term. I don't know how long she's will be interested or able to do that, but, so at least, you know, probably we could continue to get them mowed. But we'll have to mow them if we want to keep them as fields.
And maybe indicate the timing of the mowing for the nesting birds.
Exactly. Good point.
Audubon Vermont might be a really good resource in terms of the timing to do any brush hogging in that space. It might be highlighted in the birding assessment, but if it's not, they would be a good resource to contact in terms of brush hogging timeline.
So would you talk to Steve Hagenbach or something like, somebody like that?
Yeah, he'd be great.
Okay, I'll ask Emily to, if she would put that into the plan. It seems like an appropriate place for it. If not in the forest plan, then I guess we can put it into the stewardship plan. So make sure that it gets documented as such.
And for Audubon Vermont too, I think Tim DeCluse was the specialist who did the Audubon assessment for Wolcott Community Forest. He's another great resource and he'd be able to provide information on brush hogging for birds.
So, oh well. Cool. Anything else?
Did she say anything about the brook itself on the extreme southern end of that property of Rhoda Bedell's, you know, along the brook where it's where it's that marsh area or meadow or whatever. It-
Southern end of the Dells, so that would be on the east side or the west side, I'm thinking.
West side of the road, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Marshy area.
Oh, yeah, right,
She has it
right along the road.
Listed as open,
Yeah.
along with the field up there that we were just talking about.
Mhm.
So they want to just keep it in the same state it's in now. Pretty much, or could you plant trees to shelter the brook?
Hmm. I didn't see anything at all about it in Emily's plan, so.
Because it's a specific area on the original, maps and it called it out and, they really didn't want any trails or anything to it, but I was wondering if there was any where you could shelter the water with trees planting, something like that. There's lots of agencies who are willing to come around and plant trees.
What's the benefit of shading the brook?
Keeps the water temperature down for trout.
Uh-huh.
Because you're looking right there at about, I don't know, it's probably 40 acres that there's not a tree sheltering the brook at all.
Yeah, right, just goes further to the south.
That
it's
actually
a
is spot on the forest land plus the house above.
Mhm. Yeah. And then from there, after that, it's in the woods for most of the way down to the village.
Right.
I don't remember. My recollection is in the conservation easement, it's, as you say, recommended we don't do anything with that area, be protected. But it doesn't,
We can ask.
wouldn't preclude, yeah.
I think Matt Peters in his assessment mentioned that there could be wetland restoration opportunities in that section along the brook. So Dave, I think you might be making a really great point based on the ecological assessment that's been done. I think that if you guys do reach out to Emily on potential kind of wildlife habitat benefits or improvements in that open area to make sure that she's clarifying different forms of management between the open area that's wetland that's abutting Elmore Branch and the open areas that are open field, because I think management on both sites would look different,
Yeah.
but they're both classified as open.
What stewardship does that kind of work?
Forest restoration.
Yeah, we're planting along stream banks.
Uh-huh.
They have a crew that does that all summer long. So, get in contact with them. That's fine.
Yeah. I mean, let's own the property first.
Yeah, I know.
Have to get through that part.
At a time.
Yeah. And then it would be interesting to see what, I mean, a project like that, especially if we were to outsource it, so to speak, or bring in professionals. It'd be great to have the professional advice, but we'd probably also have to seek some funding or something for it. I imagine this kind of thing, you could find a grant for it pretty easily, but that would be, somebody would have to, take the wheel and make it happen.
Emily probably could direct you to one of the specialists at Vermont Fish and Wildlife who could walk it and be able to provide kind of a professional assessment of what a restoration project would look like.
Cool. So that would be something we could put into a plan, at least the intention to do such a thing. And sounds like the forest management plan would be a good place for it. Anything else on forest management plan? Okay.
I'd circle back to the comment that I made about how I know that there's no active kind of there's no proposal for active management during this section of the management plan, but there is comment of exploring potential improvements in each stand. Emily talks about kind of potential upgrades that could be made to the forest to convert it to an even age or potential releases. And she kind of mentions that in the recommendations for every stand. I'm curious what this group's thoughts are about that, especially with the comments that have been made in prior public surveys from town. Forest management was the least interested activity in the 2022 survey. So I know that she's not proposing it near term, but the idea of potential improvements or releases in stands in the future, I think should be something to discuss, whether or not that's something that this group is interested in every stand that's being highlighted on the map.
You're suggesting we would go through it stand by stand or just as a general discussion?
Well, I think because we just got this, I think it's a general discussion, but it is certainly something that both Kate and I flagged when we first looked at it, was exploring this down the road of releases in each stand. That management activity doesn't really flow with what the interests were in the survey. So I'm curious what people's opinions are, and everyone's going to have a different opinion on this. So, but we want to highlight it because this group is the one who's kind of doing the reviewing of the forest management plan and is considering public input and will be proposing this to the select board. I think that it's important to think about, do we want to be doing releases near the school? What would that look like in the future? Do we want to be doing releases in certain areas of the property? And maybe if we want to keep those in the stands, how do we word it in a way that kind of directly ties back to the overall management goals that Emily highlights in the beginning of the document? She does a really great job of highlighting the key interests at the community level of recreation, wildlife management, and the idea of managing it to enhance kind of old growth characteristics. How can the kind of recommendations or prescriptions for each stand kind of better link back into what the core objectives are of the plan at the beginning of the document? I think that's what Kate and I had talked about, but it's something to consider, maybe not tonight, because you guys should take a look at the plan, but something to consider for future conversation next month.
Looking around the room, any responses to Hayden's point?
Well, I wonder if active management, through the survey made people think of just like logging, and making money off logging. And maybe that's where that, not so favorable opinion came through. But when you frame it as active management for like releasing and helping wildlife and forest health, I think active management is just sort of vague to a lot of people. So I guess going forward, if we could define that better, maybe, not just logging to, people have strong opinions about logging these days. So just defining that.
I think there's a couple areas where we could actually do demonstration plots. And one of them is that pine, what do you call it? Pine plantation. It's not pretty like it is. To fix it would make it more unpretty, but I think you could do something with it. The other thing is that thick area of spruce. The growth is really stunted. And places inside that spruce forest, there's no new growth at all. So I would like to see quite a few of those spots where there's no new growth and wide open, so you can see 100 yards left. But there's other spots where we could actually go in and do a thinning processes in little small areas and see what happens in 10 years. I think it's something we could show the kids, you know. You know, I think we need a little bit of forestry education for our young folks, so I think we need a few of these small projects. And I'm willing to do, you know, what I can. I'm pretty old, but I can do some things.
That's a great idea, Dave. And why don't we get the schools involved doing stuff? You know, even just like, you know, you have the 10-year study set up, you'd set as transect, and so you're teaching kids some ecology and research strategies and things like that. And they can also be collecting the data to see how the species and numbers of species changes over time. It'd be a great hands-on experience for the kids, contributing to, you know, larger scientific communities. But yeah. One of those ideas that come up to get the school or schools involved. Awesome.
I'd like to hear from other folks who haven't spoken up. Tony, do you have any thoughts about it?
I like the idea like Dave and Gilly are saying about involving the kids, trying to do. Like Abe was saying, educating the public. I think that survey, people are thinking more logging, someone coming in and just ruining the forest. Whereas myself included, I didn't understand that forest management was other things, you know, to really help protect it. So maybe that was the reason why we got the response we did on the survey. So.
Building on Dave's idea of creating a demonstration space, maybe it would be good to, if we do proceed with that, to have in that same stand, a similar section that isn't thinned, to kind of show over the course of 10 years, the difference between it, you know, River Rich. Like, this is what the forest would look like if we never thinned it. This is what it looks like if we do thin it. The picture's worth 1,000 words kind of thing.
We have a lot of that in Groton, I noticed. We have, you know, signage that says this was logged in, you know, such and such a year, and all along that bike trail. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
They're doing this in Williston too, actually, on a community forest that TPL did with the Chittenden County Forester with they're doing a new forest management plan, and they have a prescribed cut, but they're really taking a very kind of community-centered, community engagement approach to it, to making sure that they feel the community is educated on why they're doing the harvesting and how the harvest is actually kind of benefiting the greater community interests that have been highlighted locally. So that could be a case study too, as an example of kind of helping to improve the forest to help kind of strengthen the larger community interests that have been highlighted through the public outreach.
Yeah. I'm personally inclined to agree with a lot of what's been said. I think that it's hard to tell from a survey, and, you know, we got a good response, 130 or so respondents. That's better than many other surveys that I've seen. And also it's, you know, it's a subset of what do we have, 1,600 voters or something on the voting ranks in the town? And, you know, it's the people who took the time to respond to a survey. So, you know, I think it's, well, I'll stop there. I do think it's within the purview of this group to consider the survey as one of the inputs when we make decisions. So. Aiden, does that answer your question? Is that, you know, was there something else you were wanting to get at with?
I think so. I think something that Kate pointed out was that kind of this idea of exploring potential forest management on all the stands could probably be better connected back to the larger management goals of the document that she states at the beginning of the document, how changing the forest structure from even age to uneven aged can benefit the overall goals and objectives that have been highlighted through community outreach and community input. I think that could be better spelled out, but I also think that it's something that should be discussed locally with you guys, because you're the ones who are really the ones who are reviewing the document and the developers of this management plan. And this is going to be your forest at the end of the day. So it's a discussion topic that we wanted to raise, but it's something that you guys should really be the deciders on. And
Right.
this one.
There was one other thing that I wanted to mention, which just came back to me. If we don't harvest locally, there is still going to continue to be construction locally. And the materials that are used for that construction will be shipped from they're harvested somewhere and shipped from somewhere if they're not harvested here. And I think that if we're thinking in terms of big picture sustainability, we have to consider at least that, one of that among the priorities, as well as preserving exactly what we've got, we need to think about can we be locally self-sufficient in a way that's beneficial to the world, frankly. So on that basis, I think that we should not be ruling out the possibility of commercial harvest in our town forest. I don't think we should be prioritizing it. And I think that, is a clear message from the survey. But I don't personally think we should be ruling it out.
As a group, would be more comfortable to consider that more fully once we've identified areas that satisfy some of the other neighborhood goals, like growth areas and stuff that we're not going to harvest. And it doesn't need to be balanced out. I think if my reading of the survey results is there's interest in both, but they both take time to develop. It seems like the first 10 years we have is a good testing ground for kind of laying those stakes in the ground.
Yep.
And figuring out whether it works.
Makes sense to me. All right, let's move on. There's a couple other items I wanted to put on here. I rode up on the rail trail earlier this week, and I don't know if anybody's noticed. I don't know who's responsible for maintaining the maintenance of the rail trail. So, okay, good, because it needs a little work. There's some washouts and
Who's responsible for maintaining?
State is.
V-Trans?
I thought Vast was somewhat responsible.
Well, I know they maintain the trail in the winter, for snowmobiles.
So the
But They
signage,
kind of gave all that up, I think, to the state. Now the state maintains it, has agreed to maintain. I know they're closing an area up in East Hardwick fairly soon to do some maintenance because of washouts and what have you.
Good. It's pity they would have to close it to do the work, but I suppose they
Might have to do with machinery or something.
yeah.
So if you see damage on the rail trail, is there like a number you can?
There's actually a website that you can go to, and they encourage people to do that. I just saw one yesterday where a tree has fallen somewhere along here, and they went online and reported it.
So what you saw, you can report. Got it.
Yeah. There's a Facebook page for the rail trail.
Mhm.
And it has the website on there where you can go to report damage or what have. Or if you see a car going down the road, you can report that too.
I understand already.
Oh, yeah.
But did you also see the initiative on Front Porch Forum? Somebody posted that on Green Up Day, they're trying to do like a 4-mile section in Wolcott of the rail trail only. So someone was starting that up too,
Yeah,
for just volunteering to just go on the rail trail to clean up the garbage.
that's my observation actually also, you know, second point of organizing green up activities that there's a few things to pick up on the town forest property, but interestingly enough, you know, there's still a lot of debris from the floods. You know, on the section of the trail that I pedaled is a fair amount of you know, standard car window donations to the cause.
Yeah.
But it's actually not that bad in the section along the town forest. So I think the point of this agenda item then is to encourage people to come down. It was Jim Ryan, I think, who posted on Front Porch Forum. You know, I think we should, to the extent that we do anything formal, we should join efforts with that and jump in on green up activities.
Gordon, I don't know if you were at the town hall meeting or not. I feel like you were, but it was a while ago, so I don't remember exactly. I remember there was somebody who went to this select board meeting and said something that they were interested in going up and down the river, looking and trying to assess what kind of cleanup needs were there. And I didn't know if they ever reached out to you through the select board or not.
I haven't been in the loop on any further discussion about it. I was at a select board meeting where somebody did a presentation about.
I was there to.
Yeah.
Submitting the stewardship plan.
Yeah, so there's an organization tracking debris in the river, or you know, looking at cleanup needs along the river. I haven't heard anything formally from that.
Yeah, probably because it was winter.
Yeah, so we got more of it December, so.
It's very obvious right now because there's no, you know, no greenery to hide it.
Yeah.
Same as a boat.
So. Unless somebody feels inspired to do something formal as a forest committee for green up, my suggestion is we contribute to whatever efforts are ongoing. Cool. Vernal pool update is the next item on the agenda.
So we are scheduled for April 20th. I think we said 10 a.m. meeting on Elmore Pond Road. I'm wondering if you just want to, would it be a good idea to meet in where that parking lot is for the put-in, the Fish and Wildlife put-in, so the cars are off the road and then drive up from there?
Yeah, sure.
As opposed to being on the road closer to the rail trail in 15. So maybe meet there.
Where's the final destination of parking?
We're gonna go up to Trevor Corpse.
Yeah.
We'll go and access the Warren property from his land.
Yeah.
Trevor's a guy with,
Yes.
yeah, nice.
And then Jack, you said you were gonna bring like a device that could,
I have the map on my phone. What I called Matt Peters. And he did the nice maps of the various locations, including vernal pools.
yeah,
And it's a georeferenced map, so it's on the phone, so we can
Get the
Oh, okay.
latitude.
walk right to, hopefully. His map is accurate enough. We should be able to walk right to every pool
And grab the latitude and
and
longitude.
grab a latitude and longitude.
And then
and photos.
we've got copies of the paper that the vernal pool, right? The vernal
Yeah,
pool,
yeah.
monitoring program with the state, what they like you to write. It's not much. I'll bring it on a clipboard. I'll be the stenographer if you wanted to. You know, I can write, it's not much what we have to fill in.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
And it was pouring down rain. How should we communicate if we cancel the thing? How will we get the word
Are you
out?
advertising this, like trying to get a larger group than just committee members?
I don't think it works.
I think we should just educate our own members about these areas before closing. I don't.
And
Yeah.
Kelly, your data is going to the Center for Eco Studies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it ultimately
Yep.
will be going.
Right? Is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, when we talked last month, it was just 4 or 5 of us that were gonna go try to find all of these. And
I think Joe Cott's really interested in going.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I think Joe.
Yeah.
So Joe's, who's definitely wants to go. It's Dave and Gordon.
Gotta be away.
Is it a morning thing or an all day thing?
We said 10 a.m.
Yeah.
to meet over where you.
It seems reasonable to think it would be several hours to try to get to all the different sites, or where we're gonna split up.
Well, with map that Jack's bringing, I think
Want to be.
maybe because they're pretty clustered
They're pretty-
together,
yeah, there's
so it may not.
There's
take-
5 of them that are pretty close to
And then,
another.
and then with Dave's friend Trevor, I mean, I'd say it probably would take us 10 minutes, maybe just from his house, just to get to the first patch.
It's,
So it may not take all
it's,
that.
it's gonna be a bushwhack though, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, for us old guys, it's not, it's not a 10-minute walk.
No, we'll take our time. We'll take our time.
You think it would be just better if we just like met here and carpooled? Or, I think there's room for what, 10 cars up in his yard probably. I'll talk to him about it. I don't know, whatever works.
Yeah, that's fine.
If you leave some cars here, you could make it a through hike instead of an out and back.
I know.
Come on, Jack.
Instead of a bunch of cars here.
No.
And up there.
That could work too, really.
Yeah.
It's no big deal coming this way.
We're going in through we're going in through where you took us before. Are we going in through your friend's house?
Yes.
So that's.
And Gordon saying we leave a bunch of cars here
Got
and
it.
then you just keep coming here
Just
and then
keep-
give
yeah.
people a ride back.
Oh, got it.
Way it's down,
So it's car spotting.
Got it, got it.
downhill that way.
It's downhill. Yeah,
After
actually,
2 hours,
yeah.
Gordon doesn't want to give up. That's.
Honestly, I have a plan in my head for the hiking trail that starts here and gets to the pond and comes back. I think it would be a really cool hike.
So you want to, so did you want to use this as an opportunity to kind of scout out part of that trail?
Not necessarily. I mean, I've done a lot of scouting on my own already, so I don't need to do more, but it's nice walking around up there.
Is this something that, I know we don't necessarily want to call out the location of the vernal pools, right? Cause it's not an area that we want people to traffic, right? I'm trying to figure out if it's something that might be Instagram worthy, if we get a couple of good pictures from the day or something like that. I just
I don't
don't.
see that it's a problem because people wouldn't necessarily know where they are.
Right, okay.
Right.
Yeah, and just as an event, you know, it's, we haven't really done anything on the Instagram, probably several months, probably over a year now, so. Now that we're getting closer and closer and closer to closing and then opening day, start revitalizing that, priming it through the season. Getting people used to it, get people used to it.
Yeah.
I can head out, but, sounds good.
Awesome.
Thanks, Hayden.
Gabe, did you want to do the, are you interested in the vernal pool thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
So where are we gonna all meet then, just before Dave goes? Where do you all wanna meet, car wise? Does it? where you.
I don't know Trevor, so I can't say we park at his house.
Well, maybe you can feel Trevor out. Why don't we just meet over on Elmore Pond Road, like we're saying?
Okay.
And then maybe you feel him out, and on that day we can say, oh, he's cool, and see how many cars there are, maybe. Kelly and I may just come by and pick you up anyway.
Dave,
If you want.
we can pick you up,
Okay.
and our car holds, we can hold how many adults? If we-
Really?
Yeah, if we put it that, yeah, so. Just to minimize cars.
2, 3, 4, 5 cars at a max, right?
Yeah, we can hold 6, actually, thinking about.
We can hold 6.
Yeah,
I was gonna
whatever.
say units, we can hold 6 adults, no dogs.
But
We might make it in 2 cars is the point. Do you know what I mean? We might be able to just make it just to limit cars on that man's property,
By
so.
the river first and then. Yeah, 10 at the river, is
at
that?
the river.
Yeah. 'cause
One thing is that the river parking lot right now is got space for about 3 cars if they're, pretty rugged. The parking lot is not in good shape.
Not in good shape.
It's not in good shape.
Oh,
It's got sandbars from the flooding.
Oh, okay.
So, a 4-wheel drive Subaru or a pickup truck or something will not be bothered by it, but there's room for 4 cars at the parking lot rather than 8 cars at the parking lot.
But if we want to go see the vernal pools, and if some other people wanted to just go over by the pond and down the rail trail, we could come right back down.
Yeah,
Right.
oh, yeah, actually,
You
that
know,
would work. That would work. Sheila, I see your hand raised.
Yeah, can I be
Online.
included in on that list?
She was.
Can you be included on the list? I
yes,
To
think
go
so, yeah.
The vernal pool, yeah. Thank you.
You're on the list, Sheila.
Yay.
Well, and Sheila, if you want, if you get yourself to Dave Holton's house that morning, Gilly and I can pick both of you up. And that's 2 less cars.
And my partner Julie's gonna come too, so we could
That's-
pick Dave up. Where do
We
you guys live? Are
We
you
can
on
put
West Hill?
everybody in our car. So,
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
I mean, we could pick up all 3 of you at Dave's
At Dave's.
house. And then
Okay.
that's 1 car right there.
Yeah,
Cool.
sure.
Sounds
Sound
good.
good?
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Roger, are you interested in this vernal pool?
I am.
Okay.
But if I have to hike in the long way, I might be open to that too. I just don't know where the endpoint is. I just need a point on the map to hike
You're
to.
out of town.
I'm at a
Yeah. All right, so we got the list,
Cool.
and if it's a rain out, we'll just email everybody.
Yeah, Gilly, I'll just email you a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I gotta check with G. And usually my kids usually have a music lesson that day, but I don't see it on the calendars. I don't know if they got canceled or moved or what happened. I just realized this as Gabe was leaving the room, that I forgot to put the agenda item on to discuss the grand opening.
Oh, right. CJ's thing.
Yeah, DJ's not here. I know, I would have remembered it immediately once I saw his face, but I just thought of it now. I didn't know if there was anything that we wanted to talk about regarding that. Or if we want to hold off until the next meeting.
Did, he sent this thing to the group, right? And everybody's, had a chance to at least see his email.
Great.
If I remember right.
Oh,
Yes, he has a proposed schedule for the day and 2 dates. October 19th or 26th. And starting at 10 and going until 2 with 10 to 10:30 an arrival gathering dedication. At the field area at the Bedell parcel. 10:30 to 11:30 is some proposed activities, guided forest walk, group bike, trail ride, children's activities. Then 11:30 to 12:30 community cookout. And then 12:30 to 1:30 repeat the 10:30 to 11:30 activities, give people a chance to participate in other things. And then closing out from 1:30 to 2. And that's all documented in the email. Just
Mhm.
reiterating it to just get it fresh in everyone's mind. I think what he was trying to do is maybe send his feelers out to like what kind of dates are people feeling in terms of mid to late October. In terms of whether the 19th or the 26th might be a better date. I know that I don't have any conflict at this point in time, and so far into the future, I never had a chance to conflict anything.
When does hunting start?
November.
So if you said October 19th and the rain date's the 26th, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because if you said the 26th, then the next Saturday is November 2nd.
And I've never-
Yeah.
never-
So maybe,
yep.
Okay,
you know, as a thought. And that's not Indigenous weekend, so, which is good, because a lot of people, that previous weekend's a long weekend. So maybe the 19th with the rain date of the 26th.
yeah, that
Sounds-
makes sense. Get that back to
Before the
DJ.
kids are out hunting, right? There's some Saturday in November that it's like kids hunting.
We'll double check that.
Yeah,
The Fish and
that
Wildlife.
might be the 26th.
Right? Because
Yeah.
we don't want to be out there when kids are hunting. I know I'm joking.
I'm ready to get pressed.
Maybe they're safer than adults, I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think we've got a lot of time put things together, although I'm sure, I know the time will go by really quickly. How many meetings do we have till October, May, June, July, August, September, or 5 more meetings?
For the time, yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about having it up? I'm just curious, up in the field, like that really beautiful field on the other side of the bridge?
I wasn't a participant in that.
Oh, okay.
I'm only reading what's in the.
Oh, okay, got it. Do you know, Gordon?
I mean, that's a possibility. That's,
Yeah. Because you know how we've all parked up there and then we've gone over that bridge up into the field and it's so gorgeous and pretty. So what I think would be really fun is if somebody had a tractor and hitched up a big wagon to it and you could bring people up to it. You
Hmm.
know, if you needed to have people park, throw them on the back of a hay wagon and bring them on up.
Another possibility would be to start at the school,
Yeah,
because there's especially if people park.
for more parking.
Yeah, it just depends on which trails are built.
trails are built, yeah.
I would, yeah.
So just depending on where the construction, where they choose to break ground.
Right.
But
If we ask Sinuosity to prioritize the connector trail, it goes from the school up to basically up to the bridge.
Yeah,
That would
that'd
be,
be nice.
Yeah. Hmm.
and then, then we could have people park at the school, have the lunch up in the field, midday thing in the field and activities kind of in between.
Yeah.
Roger, was there some talk about having someone from VHCB and the the US Forestry Service speaking at that event or something?
we mentioned it at the previous meeting when we were talking about potential speakers. Like I said, I wasn't in the smaller group meeting, so I don't know if that went any further, but if you've got.
My only thought on,
Speakers,
my only thought on that is you gotta let those people know in advance so it gets on their calendar. If you wait, 30 days out, you're not gonna get them.
Right,
So just the sooner you decide on a date and make contact, that would probably be helpful.
Yeah, I'd highlight that both VHCB and VHCB conservation staff and the U.S. Forest Service staff for the Community Forest Program would definitely be interested. Neil Bungard is the individual who's kind of this region's program manager for community forest program, and he lives in New Hampshire. So, and I definitely think about including him on an invitation earlier, the better, so it can be on his calendar because he'd love to join for a cell. I don't know if he'd be open to speaking, but he definitely would love an invite for this one.
I wonder how big of an affair it will turn out to be. I mean, you know, we could do a bunch of publicity, I'm sure. And, you know, if we drum up some interest, from the reporters from the News and Citizen and do some publicity ourselves, we might draw a pretty good crowd.
I think you will.
You know, the question is whether we have energy to do all of that and host a crowd if, when they show up.
I'm gonna invite all my friends, so expect a big crowd.
Okay, well, we better get our hosting operation into high gear.
I feel like it's press release worthy.
Yeah,
You know, because we want to encourage other towns to, you know, do their own town forest. Everyone loves a success story.
yeah. Well, Pressburg's got one, Morrisville's got one. I wonder if Elmore has one,
Has fun.
a town forest. Elmore, of course, has a state park.
Elmore has bingo on Thursday nights. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we can't, there's no way we can
So
top
much
this.
fun.
No way we'll top that.
There's no way to top that. I don't, think it's the town forest, I know.
It's a great big state park with a fire tower at the top.
True, it's true. But they have bingo.
And they have their pond.
Yeah. Hardwick's got its town forest, Woodbury's got its town forest.
Yeah.
But, you know, we should, they probably all have town forest committees that.
All right, so we're the last ones in then. And we got the biggest one.
Yeah. Thank you. So, I mean, yeah, I think we could probably easily get a pretty good draw, especially if the weather's nice, which means that we have to get our act together and be ready to host something.
Okay.
So, cool. Any other business? Are everybody satisfied with this topic for now? Any other business? Okay. Everybody against? Let's adjourn.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Hayden.
Thanks, Aiden.
Thank you.
All right, Sheila, thank you.
Night all.
Good night.
So. Started briefly with Glenn Martin, we're gonna have a conversation. So.
Dave,
I don't know.
for this big